Great evening, and great evening. Going to see if we are going to make this work. Okay, so once again, just want to make sure we are live because um, been told that sometimes I'm not. Want to make sure that we are tonight. Let's see. Says we are live. Okay. So if it's so that we're live on all three platforms, yay. So great evening once again, and welcome to episode number 98 of the Sonya Dungee podcast, sponsored by Always Destined for Greatness, where conversation is always the essence of the soul. I am your host, Sonya Dungee, and as always, absolutely, positively, yes, we are still bringing the heat to the Facebook, YouTube, and IG streets. So, first of all, I want to ask you all, how are you tonight? How are you tonight? And where might you be tuning in from? So, can you do one thing for me today? I should say tonight. Well, it can be today because different times of the day, depending on where you're watching from. But when you hear something that is profound to you, resonates with you, would you type value or relate or breakthrough or etc. into the comments so that um, I can see that? Because I value, I respect, and I love you all. And I'm so very grateful for your weekly presence, whether it be live or whether it be on the replay. So I also want to ask if someone on the IG side of the house can screenshot the notes for me, because I want to make sure I am 100% live like it says that I am, but you all know I can't always see the comments. So if you'll do that for me, I would appreciate that very much so. Okay. So for those of you who are joining for the first time, just allow me to briefly share my story with you and tell you how I arrived where I am today. So again, my name is Sonya Dungee, and I am a transformation coach. And my story started back on January 23rd, 2021 at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at the Veterans Administration Hospital in Northport, New York, holding my dad's hand, my family watching on Zoom because we were in the midst of the pandemic at the time, plandemic, as you will. I did have some family there at my dad's bedside, which was contrary to the rules. So I greatly appreciated the fact that a very kind nurse, who my daughter had been in the room Zooming with my dad, so that our family who wasn't able to be present from Sweden or Florida or from all over the United States and other countries was able to say their goodbyes to my dad. This particular nurse, God bless her, she told my daughter to go get your mom. I don't care what the doctors say, go get your mom. And in that, I was able to spend those last moments with my dad. Something that I haven't discussed previously in a really long time is that I thought I had said goodbye to my dad in the middle of the night when the doctors called me and told me that my dad wasn't going to make it. And so I had raced up there in the middle of the night and stayed with my dad for as long as they would allow me to. And by the grace of God, he still hadn't transitioned by morning, and the rest of my family was able to say their goodbyes to my dad as well. So with that being said, I held my dad's hand as a tear rolled down his eyes, and I watched him take his last breath here on this earth, and knowing that he took his first breath in heaven. And with that, I spiraled out of control. I went to a very dark place. I had no idea. It was so unexpected that my dad wasn't going to be here anymore. As best as the doctor had explained it to us, was it was like he was like an old engine that when an old engine begins to leak oil, you just put more oil in. You're not going to spend the money to buy a new engine, so you're just going to keep replacing it with more oil. And that's the oil for my dad was him getting transfusions every week to 3 weeks, so whenever needed. So when I was told on a Thursday after 4 p.m. that my dad would have 6 months from a person I never saw before in my life, and honestly, I really didn't care to ever see her again. At that time, I felt like her bedside manners was terrible, and the way that it was delivered was just unhumane. But that's besides the point. That was then. I've got a lot of self-development and faith behind me since then. But at that moment, things would have turned out a lot different if my dad wasn't sitting right here. Right there. Let's just say that. But long story short, she said 6 months. So in that moment, my dad was looking into my eyes and he told whomever that person was, I don't even think it was a doctor, but whomever that person was, um, my dad says, I believe in straight shooting, so it is what it is. And I started to make all kinds of arrangements for my furniture to be removed from my bedroom and put in storage. My dad was going to come stay with us, and I have his recliner and um, hospital bed and everything that he needed. That was Thursday night. Saturday, not even 48 hours, my dad was gone. And as a result, for 342 days, my life had forever changed. I was in a dark place. I didn't realize that I wasn't eating, that I had lost a lot of weight. I was that hamster, that gerbil, as you say, that goes on a wheel and just spins around and doesn't do a whole lot of anything else. That was me. If you can relate to the movie Groundhog Day, that was me, just doing the same thing every single day just to get by, going from my bedroom across the living room into my shisha room because we were working from home, doing my 6.5, 7, 8 hour stint, whatever my schedule stated. I was going to job, closed down, then the night, walked back across the living room, and I remained in my bedroom until the next day. I had a bathroom in there. I had no need for anything else. And that continued from January 23rd when I got home, 2021, till December 31st of 2021, when I had come to the realization I couldn't continue down that path. I had grandchildren that I wasn't getting to spend any time with. I had grown children that I wanted to spend time with. I had friends that I really wasn't paying much attention to. I had stopped being me, being spontaneous, going on trips. I was just surviving at the bare minimum. After that 342 days, after I made that conscious decision and the awareness that came with it in the 5th step of the grieving process, which we will talk about, I was able to get myself a mentor, a community, start taking classes, start going through personal development, start learning and growing about in my faith and learning about myself. And I found what my true purpose, what my calling is in life. I knew I was an encourager. I was always that rah-rah cheerleader, always uplifting people, but never myself. I masked how I was really feeling. I lied to anybody and everyone who would ask me. They asked me, how you doing today? Which is not a question that you ask to somebody who's grieving in that manner. I was like, okay, I'm fine. But I wasn't. I'd shut that door and cry like nobody's business. So I said all that. I shared that with you. I knew I had a purpose. I knew I loved to volunteer. I knew I loved to help people. I knew I had a passion for people. I knew I had a God-gifted talent as an encourager. And so I was able to find my true purpose. Once my mentor told me that he would help me if I did the work, if I showed up, and if I did the work, and if I was intentional. And at first, I did just that because I said I was going to do that. And then the realization was, I'm doing this for myself. I don't have anything to prove to anybody else. This has to be for myself. And now we're going into the end of 2025, and I'm still going to classes. I'm still learning and growing. I'm still surrounded by an amazing community of like-minded, be iconic individuals that are uplifting and that are non-judgmental, and that I know I can count on them in my darkest moments, no matter the day or the night, that they're just there as I am there for them. And so I became a transformation coach, and now I get to help those who are struggling with hardship and grief and life challenges, and help them go from suffering in silence, as I once did, feeling stuck with no direction and no end in sight, to become resilient and empowered with an attitude of expectation and of excellence, achieving economic independence, not dependence, but independent, being independent so that they can help themselves, so that they can be destined for their greatness, for their very best, so that they can walk in their true calling, and that they can help those that they were assigned to help, emulating at the same time. So that's what I do. I started this podcast because I was asked to start the podcast in class. And from that podcast, 98 episodes later, I'm still doing this podcast because I want to, because I know that there's those that are struggling the same way that I did, lying to themselves, not knowing who to turn to or what to do or where to go. And so that they have this podcast, they have that walk and talk with Sonya, they have pop-ups that I pop up and talk on, so that they might hear something that will trigger them and that will start them on their journey and do the things that we're going to talk about tonight. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started, because we have a lot to talk about. And normally what we're talking about tonight, I would speak more in depth with on a boss masterclass, but being that we're already at episode 98 at the end of December, in the last quarter, I'm really going hard and really putting this information out here so that those who want and need it and are ready to move forward past grief, not to say that you won't grieve again, but ready to just move forward and respect yourself and respect the memory of the loved one that has passed on, and achieve your goals and your dreams that you thought you never could, and be the very best version of yourself while helping and uplifting others. This is what we're going to do tonight. So tonight we're going to identify with 4 aspects of grief awareness. Okay, and the awareness is the 5th and final step, and the last stage, as you would, of the grief process. Okay, so sorry, it's like a bit overwhelming because I just want this so bad. I want it so bad, but I know at the same time that I can't pull people off the struggle bus. Even though I would love to, I can help you down the stairs, but I can't help off the struggle bus, nor can I be waiting at the bus stop. I tried that. It does not work. There has to be a want and a need. And if you are watching and this is you and you want it and need it, congratulations. Make sure you sign up for the Boss Masterclass on December the 18th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we are going to go through 5 steps to navigate from grief paralysis to forward progression, one day at a time, in depth. I promise you, you will leave with the tools and the skill set necessary for you to begin your process of moving forward, besides what you'll be learning today and next week and what you've learned from previous podcasts thus far. So, just in case you're wondering, let's reiterate the stages of grief. So, the first stage is denial, the second is anger, the third, bargaining, the fourth, depression, the fifth is the acceptance, or also known as the awareness. Okay. And that's what we're going to begin with tonight. So, according to the MHA, which is the Mental Health of America, there's no right or single way to grieve. Each person's journey is unique, shaped by factors like the nature of the loss, the relationship to the person or the thing that was lost, and the support system they have in place. So, grief awareness is that actively recognizing and acknowledging the complex emotions and experiences that are associated with a loved one's passing. It's the understanding that grieving is a natural process and validating the feelings of those who are grieving without judgment, which we have discussed more recently, like the last episode of the Sonya Dungee podcast, when I had my special guest, my big sis, Dawn Allen, lovingly called Big Sis, but even more importantly, Coach Dawn Allen. So also it means allowing the griever to process their emotions at their own pace. And overall meaning, it's that conscious awareness, acknowledging the reality of the loss. And it is here in the last stage of grief that one begins to shift towards the adjustment to life without the person or what was lost, what was being grieved. Okay. So for the griever, it's that first step towards transformation. So, which is why I chose this title for tonight's podcast, From Awareness to a Brand New You. You might hear Namari in the background, but family is family, and he's going to make himself known. So you might very well hear him, or he might even pop up. And we'll just welcome him as we always do, the little AV guy. So in order for the griever to be able to actually move forward, there must be a few actions that must be dealt with first. So the first one that I chose tonight was the validation of the emotion. That's that accepting the full gamma, the sadness, the anger, the guilt, the frustration, the shame, the self-blame, the pleading, wanting to switch with the one that has gone on, taking their place and exchange for your place, and even relief as a normality. So the second is being open to receive that empathy and the compassion, which is a very hard thing to do when you're grieving. I wasn't feeling it in the beginning. I didn't want to hear it. I really didn't want to hear it. I knew that the well-wisher, the outsider, I knew that they meant well, but I just wasn't ready to receive it because I was so stuck in my grief that that's all I can listen to. That's all I can focus on. That's all I can concentrate on. That's all I cared about is my grief and my dad and missing him and the things that we did, the stupid things that we would do. Like, he's talking to me from 12 minutes away while we watch the same game show. And I'm having to hear him yell out the answers before I can even think of the first one. Or watching The Voice on TV and guessing who is going to turn the chair around, or Jeopardy, or going out to lunch or dinner at my dad's favorite restaurant, or just sitting around laughing and joking and doing a whole lot of nonsense, but just enjoying each other's company. But in the end, knowing that you have that support system of the onlookers, the outsiders, if you will, that have conveyed that willingness to listen without unsolicited advice. That's important, because we're not trying to hear, I would do this and I would do that, and you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do that. That's a lot of blah, blah, blah. And not to make fun or make light of it, but it was all I could picture and hear was Charlie Brown and that wah, wah, wah. That's all I could hear, because everything else was unsolicited. I didn't need to be held captive in an SUV and threatened that I better eat the chicken sandwich or I'm not getting out the car. Now I can appreciate it. Now I understand why. But then, I was angry. I was so angry. It was like bodyguards that you don't want around. Like you can't have private time. Like seriously, like the windows was locked. The doors was locked. I had 2 in the front. I had 2 in the back, 1 on each side of me. So what did I do? I had no choice but to eat the darn chicken sandwich that I could laugh about now, but I was not laughing then. So again, so knowing you have a support system of those onlookers, of the outsiders that had conveyed that willingness to listen without unsolicited advice, as well as a very important community of non-judgmental, uplifting individuals that have your best intentions at heart. And if that doesn't sound like the community that you have been surrounding yourself with, or who's been trying to surround you with, I suggest you have a sit down with yourself and take a very hard, long look. Hard, long look. Because you might want to make changes to who and what you call your community. And then the fourth is to develop that self-care, that self-love plan to support emotional and physical well-being. You know, I always talk about self-care and I always talk about self-love, and it's so important to love on yourself and care for yourself first before you can even attempt to say that you love another. Because especially in grief, you're trying to find a whole lot out, and that's one of them. You know you have love for someone, but you're not really thinking about yourself. You don't care. You're doing the bare minimal. You're just jumping in the shower, jumping out, throwing whatever on, because that's what I did. I didn't even care if it matched because I wasn't going out. I was clean. That's all that mattered. Hair, ponytail every single day. Didn't care. Wash the hair in a ponytail every day. My hair never came down from that ponytail for a really long time. I got lots of videos and pictures to prove that from my classes. And I look back, I'm like, oh my goodness, I was a hot mess. And when you're in that grief, it doesn't matter to you. It really doesn't, because that's not what you're thinking about and that's not what your focus is. So in developing that self-care and that self-love plan to support the emotional and that physical well-being, you have to get that adequate rest, adequate at best, and take care of your body by engaging in proper nutrition, something that I wasn't doing. I wasn't even eating. I was not eating. I wasn't even thinking about eating. I wasn't trying to not eat. Time was swooped by every single day. I had no time management The only thing I knew as far as time was what time to go job and what time to leave the job. Walk across, shut down, walk back across the living room, back into the bedroom, and shut the door until I had to be managing time the next day and doing it all over again. That was it for me. That was it for me. And I'm sharing this and I'm putting my spin on it because sometimes when you're grieving, you don't realize what you're doing. You don't realize what you're not doing. I didn't realize that I wasn't even eating. All I know is as time went by, my clothes got bigger and bigger. It was ridiculous. My face was almost sinking in because I had gotten so thin in my face that when I did go to the store to try to purchase something for a trip that I didn't even want to go on, but I'm so grateful that I did, because even though I spent a lot of time in the bathroom behind closed doors, grieving and having my moments, I knew that my community of friends was out there. And in those moments when I was able to, we did have a little bit of fun. We did. And I'm so grateful that my sister Rosalinda talked me into going, because I didn't want to go because I felt that if I went, that I wasn't thinking about my dad, and how could I try to go have fun and my dad wasn't here anymore. But listening to my sister Rosalinda and her sharing the conversation that when Mama passed and the same thing happened to her, and that she didn't want to go on a trip that she had scheduled, and my dad sat down with her and said to go and gave her the reasons to go, and she went. She in return said the same thing to me. Same thing. So in that, in going to the store, wait for this one. Keeping it 100, I went from a size 14 down to a size 6. And I still had room. And it took a toll on my body losing that weight so fast. And for me, I have an inactive thyroid, so I have to take medication every single day. So I hurt myself more. I harmed myself more. I did more damage to my thyroid by doing that. So that's why I'm saying to make sure that you develop that self-care and that self-love plan, and that you support that emotional and that physical well-being. Because the last thing you want to do is take sick. So with that, make sure you exercise, which helps tremendously with the stress and coping with the emotional toll that grief brings. Grief brings that. And then fourth, lastly, seek the help of a coach, of a mentor that can help you navigate through the complexity of the emotions of grief, that can develop and help you manage coping strategies specific to your needs, and provide practical tools and key strategies, as well as aiding in identifying and navigating through your unresolved emotions. Unresolved emotions. These are things that you have to be able to face before you can fully progress forward to be the best version of yourself, so that you can evolve into that brand new you, destined for your greatness, your very best. So that's what I have to share with you tonight. And it is so important to follow those steps. And please don't fool yourself into thinking that you can do it. without a mentor or a coach or a community, because we've heard it time and time again. Willpower alone, that will never, ever outdo community. No matter what you think, no matter what it is that you do, you cannot do it alone. I couldn't do it alone. The only thing that I could do alone is get myself to that awareness. Get myself to that awareness. Get myself to that fifth step of grief. And even then, I didn't do that by myself, the 5 steps of grief. I didn't do it all by myself. No way. But I got to the awareness. I knew that I couldn't do it alone, and I knew I needed help, and I knew I wanted more, and I knew my dad would not have this of me. My behavior, shutting myself out, being stuck, having no voice, no direction, feeling purposeless, not needed, not loved, not secure in myself, not knowing if I was coming or going, which way was up, which way was down, not being able to spend time with my grandchildren, letting life pass me by. If this is you, please allow what we spoke about tonight to seep in. I welcome you to watch the replay. And last night, not last night, but last week's episode, where my sister and I gave you both sides of grief, the outsider looking in, and the griever. And worse, when you're the griever, and then you have to be the outsider looking in at the same time, like my sister was. So, just briefly, I'm just going to mention the steps again. Validation of the emotions. Being open to receive the empathy and the compassion. Developing self-care and a self-love plan to support emotional and your physical well-being. Seeking the help of a coach or a mentor. Surrounding yourself with community. So with that being said, there's a few other things that I just want to touch on real briefly in respecting your time as well. Thank you for receiving value. I appreciate that. And the comment that you left, I can see that. And thank you for the comments that are being left on IG as well. I appreciate you as well. I hope you're able to still see it. And if not, I promise you, I will make sure that you get this recording. I promise you. I know it's valuable, and I know, and I pray that those of you who are watching the replay, that you allow it to seep into your heart, into your soul, and that you make the conscious decision to not allow yourself to be stuck in this grief forever, but knowing that it's okay to revisit, and it's okay to take your time. Just don't take too long like I did, and allow life to pass you by in the process. So with that being said, we have the Boss Masterclass coming up next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Always Destined for Greatness LLC will be sponsoring it through the Boss Masterclass. Again, 5 steps to navigate from grief paralysis to forward progression, one day at a time. I will leave the link for you as well. It's based on a first come, first served. And also the seats are limited and are filling up. So please, please, please make sure that you register. And once you register in your thank you, you will receive an email confirmation right away with the Zoom link attached to it. So therefore you have it right away, and there's no we don't have any further issues and you not receiving a second email or what have you, and not being able to get onto the Boss Masterclass next Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are taking it off social media and on Zoom for more intimate one-on-one, if you will. Also, the 12 Days of Christmas will be starting this Friday. It will be Elf on the Shelf pop-up style, so different times of the day, of the night, also that people will be able to see it live and not always on the replay. And we will be receiving one gift per day for 12 days. And the 12th day will end, obviously, on Christmas Day, which ironically will be the 100th episode of the Sonya Dungee, to celebrate Christmas with you for the 100th episode as well. On New Year's Eve, we will also have a recap of the year of 2024 of the Sonya Dungee podcast as well. That's pretty much all I have for tonight. As always, be safe, stay well. God bless you all. I appreciate you. I value you so much, more than I can ever express to you. And if nothing else, remember, be always destined for greatness. Your greatness, your very best. Until tomorrow when I pop up again, bye for now.